with my piece, I'm really just trying to highlight the power of the vote. I think it's really important that individuals recognize the power that their voice has. I think part of voter suppression, not only the machine that cuts districts up and everything else, but it's also like undermining people's faith and confidence in the process, right? People don't believe their voice has power anymore, and sometimes their voice is powerless when it's like cut off, and there's so many roadblocks and stuff put up for them. So my piece generally is kind of a monument to the power of the vote. So I'm creating a large concrete wall that's been kind of like knocked to a 15-degree angle. So it's leaning kind of at an impossible, stance. It looks like it wants to fall over, but it hasn't yet. And on the front of it, it'll be like, I paint, this is one of mine actually behind me. So I paint like kind of big abstract work, and I'm going to do a large like kind of check mark on the side of it that will be broken up and, visually complex. But the idea is really that that's, a vote, and that one person's vote can knock down a wall or break through a barrier.
We have a long history and a lot of current examples of times and places where the smallest actions in expanding voting rights have made a difference in the outcome of the election.
I'd love to know, what was the moment that you knew that you had to make this piece? Like, can you tell me about your personal inspiration or your motivation for designing this piece?
I've been always like slightly interested in politics, but when I was graduating, September 11th happened. It was like the year that I graduated college, so I just entered the workforce, and a lot of that woke me up to politics and just the power that people have in determining what happens in the world. And voting became an issue for me. I wrote graffiti at the time, and I changed my name to Vote, and I was tagging all over the city that as a way to not only inspire people, but also do what I was doing at the time. So anyway, long story short, voting to me felt like the right direction. And then as I was sketching in my book, I really liked the idea of like breaking down a large barrier and trying to create something like large and impossible that felt like it was, on the precipice of falling, that had been impacted by something. And yeah, I think that's the moment that I knew I had to make something cool.
Yeah, I mean, Dana, I loved your piece, or at least the sketch that I was able to see. I look forward to seeing the final piece when it's actually constructed. And some of what I loved about it in a Jewish context and really connected to the tzedakah box, I'll say a few things. One, as is explicit in this project, tzedakah, of course, means justice, not charity. And the way that our tradition thinks about tzedakah is not about altruism, like I'm giving tzedakah because I'm such a nice person and I like you so much and I'm having a good day. It's more like a tax, right? Like the ways that tzedakah is described in classical text, it's like there's tzedakah collectors and they come to you and they say, this is what you owe. And for me, that's very much about thinking each of us individually about, well, what's our obligation to the larger body? And that's something that I think has really been destroyed in the US over many, many years, but it's certainly, especially over the years of COVID, just that social fabric of people saying to themselves, what is my obligation to the society in which I live? What's my obligation to every member of the society? Instead, American individualism has taught us to wake up in the morning thinking about, what do I need? Or to really believe everything that I have, if I'm doing well in my life economically, otherwise it's because I'm so great, as opposed to it's because other people contributed to building this country and the infrastructure that I need just to even go about my daily life. And so the idea of tzedakah really pushes us back into that conversation about my obligation to build this just society. And part of that obviously is voting.